Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It is FPC Radio Live. It's Wednesday, July the 19th, and we are 50 days away, folks, from the start of the NFL season. 50 days, John. That's nothing. That's nothing. 50 days. I think we could do 50 days. After the last few months, I think we can hold out just a few more days, especially since your guy Aaron Rodgers hits the training camp field today, or at least he reports to training camp for the New York Jets. And in just a few weeks, we're going to get to see them on Hard Knocks. So I know you're excited about that.
Yeah, the first episode will drop on August 8th, so the cameras will be rolling today. It's going to be interesting to see how much access NFL Films and HBO have. Look, Aaron Rodgers loves the camera. That's obvious, right? And he likes to talk, so I think he's going to dominate this five-part series. I also think Robert Saleh is someone who's very engaging, charismatic.
Yeah.
I wonder how he's going to react to this. I also think you're going to have to look at a player like Zach Wilson, and maybe they're going to follow him around a bit because, again, he was the second overall pick 2 years ago. He's disappointed. He grew up idolizing Aaron Rodgers. So is Rodgers going to mentor him? Because they were obviously in different parts of their career. When Garoppolo came to the Patriots, Brady still played another 9 years. So he was in no position or want to, in terms of mentoring Jimmy Garoppolo. When Brett Favre had Aaron Rodgers come in, Brett Favre knew he wanted to play another 6-7 years, and that's what he did. So he didn't want to mentor Aaron Rodgers. But I think Rodgers may do that with Zach Wilson. And maybe they can, go after the same women, age women, because obviously we know that Zach likes the older ladies. So maybe they'll, go out together and hit on 40-year-olds.
I was going to say, I think their tastes are probably a little bit different. I think they I think they roll in different crowds. We've gotten a glimpse into Aaron Rodgers' life. He's not what you would call an atypical celebrity. Well, maybe actually, you know what? Who knows? Maybe he is an atypical celebrity. I don't really know, but I will say this though, and I saw a note, an interview, or the Jets organization was talking about it, or there was a report, but they actually are doing something we talked about and something I brought up last week, and that was it's going to be a little bit different, and they're not sure, or I don't believe they're planning on showing any of the cuts, and that's something we specifically talked about. I think it was last week or right around the time that the Jets were officially announced as the Hard Knocks participant. And I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that, like, some people are, they think like, oh, you're just changing it. It's changing too much. It's not the same, blah, blah, blah. I think we both expressed our feelings on that before. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, these are human beings. And I feel like something like that is it's a little bit too much to be out there and to be exploited for, viewership or whatever. So I'm 100 more than 100% behind the Jets' decision to not show that in this iteration of Hard Knocks.
My only concern with this is it is a training camp show, so a big part of that is creating these characters, and oftentimes it's not just Aaron Rodgers or Sauce Gardner, right? It's guys who are trying to make a team as a third safety or as a backup offensive lineman, and they're interesting characters. Their plight is interesting. And if they don't make it, they get cut. And it's heartbreaking, right? Because this is what they've worked their entire life for. However, don't you go ahead?
Oh, no, I was going to say, I don't mean to interrupt you. I mean, I guess I do because I am interrupting you. But you're saying that, look, they're all characters. People are interested. They're all interested in these characters. Look, the cut is the last thing you see from these people. So you've already established interest and fascination with these players before having to show what I believe should be a very intimate and private moment between you, the employer, in this case, the Jets, and whatever, and like I said, I understand some people that have gone through it. Maybe they're okay with it. That's their, that's their prerogative. I just think in general, I'm okay with them not showing that. Show everything else. Show the struggles. Show the implication. Show the maybe coaches discussing the cut downs. I think that's an important part to do. But just don't show the actual essential firing on camera.
Well, I mean, we don't want to go all in on like, George Clooney and Up in the Air, where he's the corporate guy that goes from spot to spot to get rid of people.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that movie, he was sensational in it. He generally is. He just doesn't make movies anymore for whatever reason. I think he's living on Lake Como in northern Italy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Doesn't he own a tequila brand or whatever, making hundreds of millions of dollars? So he doesn't really need that at this point. So, but yeah, the interesting thing about this too is you want to see the players though, right? These fringe players.
Oh, of course.
Who eventually are going to get cut, because I think other teams are watching this and they can maybe get a head start on some of these players. Like you look at the player, he played well, but he just didn't make the team because the Jets are pretty talented and they cut him. And other teams are going to look at player X, who's again a third guard or fourth guard on the roster. So they can benefit from that. I get that it's humiliating to go through that process of getting cut because your dream essentially is ended.
Well, and the other thing too is the fact that, well, this isn't an exact science. This isn't the management is always right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, this is putting out, I don't know, just negative. I don't know. Again, you can do everything. You can even talk about the people that you're going to cut. I don't care about it. It's just that moment between the coach and the player. Like if you want to show you come back to the locker room and the coaching assistant comes up to the guy and says, "Hey, coach wants to talk to you. You want to?" That's fine. I'm okay with that. Everything but the actual in the office conversation. That whole thing, because again, at the end of the day, there's a lot of human emotion involved, and I understand that is obviously part of the big draw to this, because you get to see behind the glitz and the glamour of the Monday, Sunday, and occasionally Thursday night. But at the same time, I think there's a line, and I think that crosses it. So you can push right up to it. You can toe that line again. Talk about who's being cut. Have the coaches discuss, these various players' abilities, and I think you can still accomplish exactly what you're looking for, John, or at least a lot of the audience, and that is you want to know all the gritty details. It's just you don't need to see the actual firing, quote unquote, to have that make an impact on you. And I think that's my bigger point. And I think if the Jets do again eliminate that aspect of Hard Knocks, I know some people will be disappointed, and there is a fascination, sure, with seeing that. I just think for the overall good, I mean, yeah, because like I know people sit there and say, oh well, these pro athletes make millions and millions of dollars, blah blah blah. Well, guess what? The people featured in those segments, 98% of them do not make that money. So, whatever justifications you have, I know there's a lot of justifications for what celebrities and high worth people, money wise, should put up with. But at the same time, that's a little misrepresentation. They're pretty much like you and me, a little bit better shape than you and me, John, but basically this, we're the same people, and we don't, if we ever get let go from a job, you know what I mean? It's not posted on the internet. It's not broadcast for everyone to see, So I just, like I said, I'm good for the Jets if that's what they're going to avoid doing, and I'm okay with that.
And it's so different than any other sport. Like you kind of know what the Celtics roster is going to look like.
Oh yeah.
Next year, maybe one or two guys will get cut. You know what? They'll have a two-way contract and play in Maine, so they can continue to play at the professional level. Same thing in baseball, because you've got the minor leagues. These football players, you bring in 90 players, you end up with 53. So do the math, 37 are gone. Like some might be on the practice squad, and that leaves you 20, 25 guys, which is like 20% of the players that participate in training camp are gone. I'm also interested to see who has final cut. Is it going to be Robert Saleh? Is it going to be Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese? Let's hope it's not Christopher Nolan, because if it's Christopher Nolan, Hard Knocks will be 3-hour episodes and will put us to sleep. Yeah. I just wanted to get that out there because I despise Christopher Nolan as a director. And I know everybody loves him, and I know he's got a new movie coming out Oppenheimer, and I'm sure he's going to screw that up like he screwed up a lot of his movies.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel, John. I mean, this is
the most overrated director in the history of Hollywood.
Look, I mean,
my humble opinion.
Batman can go a long way. Let's just put it that way. And look, I'm not gonna. Maybe I don't share the same angst as you do.
The Dark Knight was good. The Dark Knight was excellent. I did like that.
Yes. And I think obviously the power of that film goes quite a long way. Let's just put it that way. Let's put it that way. But yes, I I feel like that might be a topic to dive into another time because I feel like
I had to get that off my chest because I just heard some reviews of Oppenheimer, and I'm like, this guy's going to screw it up. He's going to put us to sleep. And did you see Inception when that came out? What, in 2010?
Yeah, I saw it. I mean, look, I enjoyed the visual aspect of it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I think the idea of Christopher Nolan is actually better than Christopher Nolan. Does that make sense?
Yeah, again, it's a lot of style over substance. I mean, Inception, I preferred my recent colonoscopy to that, to be honest with you. And I just felt like throughout everything, I felt like there was a broken washing machine. Like that's what it felt like the same sounds of a washing machine on the fritz. And it was just, I couldn't take it anymore. And I like the actors in it, and I was going in with positive vibes, but I don't know. Like David Fincher is a far superior director in their contemporary.
Look, I'll be interested to hear your opinion on this. What about Interstellar? Because I very much, and again, maybe this is just the power of the people in the movie. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Matthew McConaughey fan. I know, I think he's an incredible actor, and all that stuff. I mean, the supporting actors. What's her name? Jessica Chastain.
Excellent.
Very good
film. I mean, he's had good films. I mean, but he's also had ones that get so overrated to the point where it's like, here's the greatest thing we've ever seen, and he's the greatest auteur since Stanley Kubrick. I'm like, please, no.
Well, and I think this is going back to the Batman. Between Batman and Interstellar, I think that does a lot of heavy lifting. So it gives them a lot of cachet. You know what I mean? So like, you can.
They make money. They make money.
Sure.
So
sure.
Absolutely. If you make money, they're going to, greenlight your next script. I mean, I'm a big David Fincher fan because to me, he's made, better films, Seven, Fight Club, Zodiac, The Social Network. I mean, that's just to name a few. And his films they're wider. There's more variety to them. Like how do you compare The Social Network to Zodiac? They're like two totally different feels to them. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is not about Tom Brady, but it could have been. But yeah, I think he's a far superior director. Of those contemporary directors, I mean, Spielberg and Scorsese are like in another level. But I didn't think we were going to get into talking about film directors, but blame me for that.
No, I mean, all I have to do is just give you that opportunity to go wild on your Christopher Nolan rant. But no, hey, look, that's good. I'm glad we got that out there, and that's something we can think about. And I feel like, I'm trying to go back a couple moments because I thought I had another good point, but maybe that's just me trying to convince myself I had a good point. Just like people are trying to convince themselves that Christopher Nolan is this otherworldly director. So there you go, John. There you go.
He's polarizing, right? He's by definition polarizing. You get me like all upset.
Yeah,
and then
clearly.
You get people who are like in love with the guy. So you know what? Good for him. He's got us talking about him, and I'm sure his film is going to do a bunch of business because it is an interesting story. I just don't know if he's the best director for it.
I was going to say, isn't that just a sign of the times? The idolization of a singular figure and a blind loyalty to it. I mean, it's not just Christopher Nolan. I mean, look at our political realm, obviously, but go to
look at Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, well, we'll get to him, but
him today too.
Well, I was going to. Please don't. Hold on. I was going to just mention the superhero genre movies and this blind dedication to one director or another, and this fandom that it's like, okay, are you really excited about the actual art, or are you just excited about the name? And that kind of maybe is what you're trying to say about Christopher Nolan. It's like, oh, Christopher Nolan. Well, okay, if you break down each film, maybe the excellence is a little bit more sparse than you would think, but kind of the same thing. But anyways, back to Shohei Ohtani, because please don't tell me you had a problem with that bat flip.
Oh no.
Okay, good.
No.
Good,
that's
good.
Great.
You worried me.
I love Shohei Ohtani. I went on a rant last week that, he's been playing at this incredible level for 3 seasons. Let's not crown him the greatest player in the history of baseball, certainly the most unique. He's incredibly entertaining. He's going to sign for a boatload of money. But I look at Juan Soto, who is 5 years younger than Shohei Ohtani, will be a free agent following next season.
Which is incredible to think, yeah. It doesn't seem like
that. Free
that.
Agent at 25. It's kind of like A-Rod. A-Rod was 25 when he hit free agency because he came up so young and, he filled all of his time that he needed to serve to become a free agent. Juan Soto's offensive numbers are better than Shohei Ohtani's. He's got a higher batting average, on-base percentage, slugging percentage, OPS plus. He's driven in more runs. He's scored more runs, fewer home runs. They've played essentially the same amount of games. Obviously, Ohtani's a pitcher. I get that. But, Soto as an offensive player is better than Shohei Ohtani. We're talking about, 10 years, $700 million. That's maybe what Shohei Ohtani gets. And let's not forget, he's 29. So at the end of that contract, he's going to be approaching 40. If you sign Juan Soto to a 10-year deal after next season, he's going to be 35 at the end of that. And his offensive numbers are better. They just are better than Shohei Ohtani. So I just, I'm always pushing back against absolutes. There are some absolutes. Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback ever. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. Jim Brown's the greatest running back ever. But to crown Shohei Ohtani as the greatest baseball player after 3 extraordinary years, because his first 3 years were good. The last 3 have been otherworldly. We're forgetting guys like Barry Bonds who were dominant for 15 straight years, and they also impacted winning. And again, you can't necessarily hold that against Shohei Ohtani, but Bonds went to the postseason in 7 of those 15 years, and on 3 other occasions was eliminated in the final day of the regular season. And his offensive numbers were quite better than Shohei Ohtani's, and also winning 8 Gold Gloves and was stealing over 500 bases. So that's my only pushback. The guy is incredible. I would love to see him with the Red Sox or whoever, to see him up close. I prefer he goes to San Francisco because that's my team. But no, he's phenomenal. I'm not knocking him. But sometimes you have to say, well, there's another guy out there that's going to offer maybe more value going forward.
Well, and again, this is something we see, we combat in all the sports, is just the recency bias and the I don't even want to say lack of appreciation. There's a lack of appreciation in some cases, but just a naivety of some people. The casual fan, and I'm saying this trying to be not insulting at all, but just understanding that, look, sports are popular not necessarily because of the hardcore fans, but because of the casual fans. Mm-hmm. You're going to find a niche audience that's going to love something no matter what. So, you're always going to have that hardcore base. It's about the fringe fans. And again, it creates, talk and I understand, but it also breeds a very obvious recency bias. And we see it not just from fans, Sean, we see it from, quote unquote professionals, the folks that are paid big money to opine about these things, and I think that the longer we go, the more muddy this whole discussion is going to be. There's one, let's just put it this way. There's one NFL account out there that has they're just a new little news account or whatever, but they have a fairly big following, and they constantly make these statements about certain players being a pro football Hall of Famer, and I'm just like, oh my God, this would be the most uninspiring, lackluster Hall of Fame class or group I've ever seen. And it just kind of shows again. Well, clearly they have a very big bias towards what's happened recently, and maybe that's just the capacity of what they know about the game. And can you fault them? Well, you're representing yourself as an NFL account. I would think that you're going to put a little bit more thought into this. But if you're just a fan, that's what they do. So again, that's how the Angels have had the 2 greatest baseball players of all time on their roster, and they've won 0 playoff games.
right, to qualify for the playoffs once. I mean, I heard last weekend that people are putting out that Andrew Luck should be a Hall of Famer. Andrew Luck played, what, 7.5 seasons? Never made it to the Super Bowl. They're saying, well, he played about as much as Kurt Warner. Well, Kurt Warner went to 3 Super Bowls.
He's a 2-time MVP.
Right. Totally different, right? Kurt Warner's kind of like Sandy Koufax. Short career, but, man, during that 7-8 year period, he was lights out. Andrew Luck, excellent quarterback, not a Hall of Famer, without question. So, I think at this point, you have Patrick Mahomes, I have Shohei Ohtani, because we have to protect Brady and Bonds a little bit, like pump the brakes a little bit.
But hold on, I'll stop you right there. We don't need to protect them, though. That's the thing. Like, there's the idea that they are even in any case threatened is part of that recency bias. Like, by all logic, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady shouldn't even be mentioned in the same breath when it comes to all-time greatness, and that's all we've heard, despite the fact that, well, Tom Brady's one-upped him in every big opportunity that they've had against each other. So on top of having the far superior, just like Bonds, the far superior team and personal accolades, obviously more so Brady than Bonds, we know obviously the World Series things, but the point being is, despite all that, they still try to force Patrick Mahomes into the conversation, and they think it's appropriate. And the reality of it is, it's not even appropriate. But I think most people have given up on even trying to attempt to impress that idea upon people, because again, there's so much recency bias that you're just blind to that. Logic is what it is, John. Logic. There's no logical reason to sit here and say that Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are in the same breath at this point in their careers. Not even close.
And the thing I appreciate about you as a youngin, I'm the old guy here, 60 years old, you're in your mid-30s, but you appreciate what took place before you even started watching the sport. Mm-hmm. Like most people in their mid-30s, when you bring up a player from 30 years ago, well, I wasn't born or I wasn't following the sport, therefore it didn't happen. We kind of know that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were really important in the growth of our country. None of us were alive, but we can read history books and we can talk to experts and find out how impactful those people were. So, that's the turnoff to me. It's like, well, I wasn't alive. I didn't see them play, so it doesn't matter. It's only what I've seen play, which is kind of idiotic and selfish.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, if you can't show at least some appreciation, maybe it's misguided, because again, I have fewer reference points when it comes to talking about older generations of players, because obviously I didn't see them. When I talk about Tom Brady, obviously I'm talking about, I saw every damn snap of this guy's career. Like, I literally, every job I ever had my entire life, I refused to work Sundays. Mm-hmm. Like, I would go into the interview and be like, I will not work Sundays. This is a restaurant, sir. Sorry, I'm not working Sundays. What about Super Bowl Sunday? Nope. You will not see me here, because, well, guess what, John? More often than not, the Patriots were in the Super Bowl. So, I had to make sure that day was free and clear. But yeah, it's
you're like Francis and Stripe.
Yeah.
Remember him when any of you, touch me, I'll kill you.
Yes. I love that movie, by the way.
Great movie.
I have it. I have the Blu-ray and 4K DVD version of it. It's great. I love it. I might watch it later today.
Better than many Christopher Nolan films.
Yes, that I will agree on. Just try one of my favorite films. The mud wrestling scene was always a classic. Mm-hmm. John Candy, rest in peace. But what do you say? What does he say? What's his like? I'm a lean, mean fighting machine. There we go.
I'm a lean, mean fighting machine. Yeah. About 350 pounds.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. But yeah, no. Look, if you can't have the capacity to at least appreciate or try to appreciate the era before, then it's hard to take an opinion seriously. And look, I get it. You can only really passionately defend what you've seen, because there is a difference between going back and looking at the, after the effect and actually seeing what we're watching. We're seeing that right now, John. People can't discern a difference between the current era of football and the era of football in 2005. I mean, that's not really even a big gap. So how are we expected for people to appreciate football from the 90s, 80s, 70s, so on and so forth, baseball 70s, 60s, 50s, so on and so forth. So it's quite the pickle we're in in terms of sports coverage and discussion.
Yeah. No, I mean, things change quickly, right? Like it's such an offensive-based sport, a passing sport. So obviously, the wide receiver numbers, the quarterback numbers are going to go through the roof compared to when someone would win an MVP throwing for 3,800 yards and 26 touchdown passes. If you do that now, you are like a middle-of-the-road quarterback. You're
Derek Carr.
Exactly. Yeah, Derek Carr's numbers would have won MVPs back in the 70s. But
right now he's like
moved.
Quarterback 22 or whatever the fantasy kids say. So, but
exactly.
anyways, John, that's going to do it for us here today. We're excited for training camp, Hard Knocks. I can't wait to see that. I'm definitely going to tune in for all that stuff. And like you said, 50 days away from the start of the NFL season, so it's just around the corner. So, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will